Hey, what's up guys, it's Darkroom Duels, and today I'm doing an Eldritch deck profile. So I'm really excited for you guys because this deck is an amazing control-based deck that I've been playing a lot recently. It's a really fun deck to play around with, especially with skill drain at 3. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name in every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of the Golden Gucci Lord himself, Eldritch the Golden Lord. And what this card does is you can send this card and a spell or trap from your hand to the graveyard, and then target a card on the field and send it to the graveyard. And if this card is in the graveyard, you can send a spell or trap card that you control to the grave and add this card back to your hand, and then you can special summon a zombie monster from your hand, and if you do, until the end of your opponent's turn, it gains 1,000 attack and defense, and it can't be destroyed by card effects, which is a great effect. Just to be able to add this card back to hand and special summon it as a 3,500 attack one monster is incredible in this deck with all the traps that back this card up. We then played 2 copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison. I feel like 2 is totally fine. I've play tested it at 3 and didn't feel like I needed the 3rd one now that we have Skill Drain. So this card is a great 2 of because it has the ability that during the main phase, you can activate this effect that you can reveal this card in your hand, and then once you do, you reveal it into the end of your opponent's turn. And when this card is revealed by this effect, set cards on the field cannot be destroyed by card effects. And if a set spell or trap card is activated except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand, and then if you do activated this effect while this card was revealed in your hand, you can reveal any spell or trap in your deck and set it to your side of the field, but banish it during the end phase of the next turn, which is a great effect to give you access to literally any spell or trap that you need with this card. This card is incredible in this deck, but I only feel like you need 2 of it, but that protection is amazing in this deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. We only play the 5 monsters in this build. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Cursed Eldland. Cursed Eldland is a great 3 of because it has the ability that you can't declare an attack except for zombie monsters, which is a little bit of a downside, but the search effect is great because it has the ability that you can pay 800 life points to add an Eldritch monster or a golden land spell or trap from your deck to your hand, basically turning it into where you have 6 copies of your Golden Lord at any given time. And it also has the ability that if this card is sent from the spell and trap card zone to the graveyard, you can send an Eldritch monster or a golden land spell or trap from your deck to the graveyard, which is a very good effect because it combos very well with your Golden Lord. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. Pot of Extravagance is here because you don't really need the extra deck all that much, and getting that draw 2 is just such a great effect. You play the extra deck basically for Dogmatika punishment targets and a couple of cards like your Gustav Max, but other than that, you really don't need it all that much, so the copies of Pot of Extravagance help out a lot to give you that draw 2. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Conquistador of the Golden Land. This card is an incredible trap monster that has the ability that you can special summon this card as a normal monster that's a zombie light, level 5, 500 attack, 1800 defense, and it's still treated as a trap card. Then if you control an Eldritch the Golden Lord, you can destroy 1 face-up card on the field. And then during the end phase, you can banish this card from the graveyard to set an Elixir spell or trap directly from your deck, and you can only use 1 Conquistador effect per turn, which is a pretty good effect to be able to just immediately pop a card. It's a really good disruption card, and I love this card as a 3-of. Then I play 3 copies of Huakero as well. Huakero is a great 3-of in my opinion because this card helps out a lot, especially in the mirror match, because it has the ability to special summon this card as a normal monster that's a zombie light, level 5, 1800 attack, 1500 defense, and this card is also still treated as a trap card. Then if you control an Eldritch the Golden Lord, you can banish any card from either player's graveyard, and then during the end phase, you can banish this card from the grave to set an Elixir spell or trap directly from your deck, and you can only use 1 effect of this card per turn. I really love this card as a 3-of in here because basically, with this card at 3, you have so much potential to banish cards that your opponent really needs, like Golden Lords that you might be playing in the mirror match, Sky Striker Ace Rays if you're playing against Sky Strikers, or cards like when you're playing against Tenyi, certain cards like Tenyi Sword Soul, when they're playing cards like their Ashuna, you might want to go ahead and get rid of that card once it's sent to the graveyard so they can't continue their plays. So this card is a great 3-of to me. We then play a single copy of the Golden Land Forever. Golden Land Forever is a good 1-of because it has the ability that when a spell or trap or monster effect is activated, while you control an Eldritch, the Golden Lord, basically, you get to tribute a zombie monster, negate the activation if you do destroy that card. I really like this card as a 1-of in here because it's searchable, and basically you can tribute any of your trap monsters to let this card go off as long as you control an Eldritch monster, which is really, really easy in this deck. We then play 3 copies of the Elixir Scarlet. Elixir Scarlet is a great 3-of as well because it has the ability to special summon a zombie monster from your deck or graveyard, but if you don't control Eldritch the Golden Lord, you must special summon him out with this effect. And for the rest of the turn, you can't special summon monsters except for zombie monsters, and then you can manage this card from the graveyard to set a golden land spell or trap from your deck, but you can only use 1 effect of this card per turn. It's a great 3-of in this deck because it basically gives you your Golden Lord at any time during your opponent's turn, just to be a good defensive play and to turn your traps on where they can use their secondary effects. We then play 2 copies of Trap Trick. Trap Trick turns all of our other generic traps in this deck into basically 5-ofs or 4-ofs depending on the amounts that we're playing. So this card is an incredible 2-of. Basically, you banish a normal trap from your deck, except another copy of Trap Trick to set 1 card with the same name directly from your deck, and also it can't be activated this, or it can be activated this turn, and you can only activate 1 trap for the rest of the turn. But it's a really good card to basically get that 1 power trap that you need out of the deck onto your side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Torrential Tribute. Torrential Tribute is a great 2-of, especially comboed with your Golden Lord's effect, where it can't be destroyed by card effects if it's special summoned by its own effect. So this card is very good in the deck to be able to board wipe the opponent when they're trying to establish an insane board. We play 3 copies of Ice Dragon's Prison. Ice Dragon Prison is a great card, especially in this format. This card is really, really good because what it does is it lets you target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your field, but its effects are negated, and then you can banish a monster from both players' fields that have the same type as each other. You can use this to be able to just bring a monster back and not banish anything at all, but it's really, really helpful, especially in decks like Sword Soul Tenyi, where you can banish a really, really powerful monster and get rid of something out of their graveyard as well. We then play 3 copies of Dogmatica Punishment. Dogmatica Punishment is a great pop in this deck because it has the ability to be able to target a face-up monster opponent controls and then send a monster with equal or higher attack from your extra deck to the graveyard, and if you do, destroy that monster. And until the end of the next turn after this card resolves, you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck, which is not that big of a deal because we're not special summoning from the extra deck that much in this deck at all. So this card is a very, very good 3-of in the deck because basically you can send Elder Entity Nist or any of your other Dogmatic Punishment targets from the extra deck to the graveyard with this and turn it into a double pop, turn it into a pop and a spin. It can basically turn into a bunch of different cards with this 1 card, so it's a great 3-of. We then play 3 copies of Gozen Match. Gozen Match makes it so each player can only control 1 attribute, which is really good for this deck because we're pretty much only summoning light in this build. So this card is a very good card to be able to just shut down all sorts of different matchups, and I really like this card as a 3-of. We're playing 3 copies of Skill Drain because it's insane in this deck. Skill Drain is an incredible 3-of that has the ability that you pay 1,000 life points, and as long as this card remains face on the field, all face-up effect monsters on the field have their effects negated. That's really good for us because our Eldritch the Golden Lord resolves off field, which is really, really good. I love this card. It's such a good card in this deck, and I can't believe it's a 3. And then we play 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. This could be 3 copies of Solemn Strike if you want to. I like Solemn Judgment in my build because you always have half to pay with Solemn Judgment, and it stops so many different things because you pay half your life points, and then when your opponent either activates a spell or trap or summons a monster, you just activate this card and stop it. So it's really easy just to pay half your life points with this card. Solemn Strike is a good card for this deck, but I really like to main the Solemn Judgments over the strikes because you have so many other cards that you can actually deal with this. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a lot of different Dogmatic and Punishment targets, but one of the best cards that you can actually summon out of the extra deck is your Gustav Max. I'm just playing a single copy of Gustav Max because you don't have to have it, but what it does is you pay 2,000, you detach a material, and then you inflict 2,000 points of damage to your opponent. It's very easy to summon in this deck, but it is kind of just there just in case you need to do that last 2,000 to end the game. We play a single copy of Rail Cannon Juggernaut Libby. Juggernaut Libby can be made on top of the Gustav Max, which helps you get a little bit more OTK potential in this deck. With it being a control-based deck, it is a little bit difficult to OTK, but this card helps you out a lot with that, being able to go up all the way to 6,000 attack points and attack multiple times. We then play a single copy of Constellar Pleiades because you can get bounces with this card, so this card is very good in the deck, and it's very easy to make because you basically just use your trap monsters like your Huakero and your copies of your Conquistador to make this card. And making this card with all of the back row that you have in this deck is just incredible to be able to just bounce cards every single turn. We play a single copy of Double A Zeus because it can board wipe the opponent and us, and we do function out of the graveyard in this deck, so this card is very, very good in this deck to play as a one-of, to just be a really good board wipe if you can make any of these three. We play a single copy of Access Code because we can actually make it in this deck, and it's a really good card to be able to just pop multiple cards on the field. You can change it out for another copy of Gustav Max if you don't want to pick up a copy of Access Code Talker. So that is an option for you guys if you want to bump up the number of Gustav Maxes instead of playing the copy of Access Code Talker, or you can play a copy of, say, Boral Load or Boral Sword if you want to play that instead. We then play a single copy of Unicorn to spin stuff, Phoenix to pop spells and traps, and Cerberus to pop monsters. These are basically here because they are just really good generic cards. I really like to play these in this deck because they help out a lot to be able to just handle certain scenarios. Like if my opponent has a monster that I can't out with my copy of my Eldritch monster, I can just use this. If I need to pop a spell or trap, I have this. If I need to spin something and can't be destroyed or something, I can just use the copy of my Nightmare monsters to be able to out anything that I need to deal with. And then play a single copy of the Wind Charmer, and I have to give a quick shout out to Triff. Triff actually was the one that came up with this tech, and it's an insanely powerful tech in this deck. I really love it. It helps you go in for game and helps you go in for Access Code Talker by bringing Baron de Fleur back from your opponent's graveyard. I really like this card because it has the ability that you can just target one wind monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it to a zone that this card points to, which is really easily to just make this card in this deck, especially with your copy of Imduk, and it's a really, really good card. So shout out to Triff for actually coming up with this tech. I really love this card. We then play a single copy of the Light Charmer as well. This card is a really good card in this deck because you play so many different light cards in this deck, and it's so easy to make, and bringing back cards from your opponent's graveyard that are light is very easy, especially with Effect Veiler running around right now. Like a single copy of Link Spider. Link Spider is so I can have multiple attributes of Earth in this extra deck. You can change it out for a copy of IP Masquerena if you want to, but it does help us get our copies of Huakero and Conquistador off the field. We then play a single copy of Imduk as well. Imduk is here because you can use it with a normal monster to be able to go into that copy of the Wind Charmer. So it's very easy to make your copy of your Wind Charmer, especially if your opponent has like a Baron de Fleur in the graveyard. This card is really, really good in this deck, and I really, really like it. We play a single copy of Elder Entity Nist because it gives us pops with our Dogmatic Punishment. We play a single copy of Omega because Omega is really good because if it's sent to the graveyard, or if this card's in the graveyard, you can target one other card in the grave, shuffle both that card and this card into the deck. So it comes in very handy with your Dogmatic Punishment to get cards back into the deck. And then we play a single copy of the Wind Pegasus, which basically turns our Dogmatic Punishment into a pop and a spin because you manage this card from the graveyard to be able to target a card your opponent controls and shuffle it into the deck. So this card is a very good one of in here as a Dogmatic Punishment target. So that's pretty much it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to play around with, and definitely shout out to Triff for coming up with that Wind Charmer tech. I've been playtesting it a lot recently and really, really like it. It's an incredible tech card, and I really love this deck. It's a really fun deck to play with, and I highly recommend if you guys have not played with Eldritch, you definitely should, especially with skill drain at 3. So anyways, guys, this is Dark Arm Duels. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.